Hello everybody and welcome to this video. It's the second video in the series on A Christmas Carol. Everything you see comes from the ebook, which you can pick up for £3.99 at mrbruff.com or amazon.co.uk. So let's have a look at the importance of the title, A Christmas Carol. It's quite strange that a novella should be called a carol. As we all know, carols are songs that are sung at Christmas. They usually have a Christian feel to them and often use rhyme and rhythm to make the lyrics memorable. Certainly the novella itself does have many religious connotations, which we're going to discuss in future videos and are covered in detail in the ebook. But it's quite interesting to call it a carol when actually the prose that Dickens uses neither rhymes nor is really rhythmical. He may, however, hope that the story is retold or listened to repeatedly. After all, storytelling has been a tradition for many hundreds of years, and if that was indeed the case, Dickens has certainly had his wish come true, as A Christmas Carol has been retold many times in many different ways. There are several feature films of the story, and now that it's one of the possible texts for GCSE English literature, no doubt even more will become familiar with the narrative. Another oddity about the story is that it contains ghosts. It's fairly rare for a Christmas story to contain ghosts. They're more likely to have references to elves, reindeer and Father Christmas. And it might be these original features which mean that A Christmas Carol does stand out among many Christmas tales. Many of you will be wondering, what is a novella? Well, A Christmas Carol is an example of a novella, which is traditionally longer than a short story, but not as long as a traditional novel. Novellas often have some sort of moral or lesson which the writer is trying to teach the reader, and consequently there's often a protagonist who learns this same lesson. A Christmas Carol is presented in this way as it focuses on the main character, Ebenezer Scrooge, learning the benefits of being a responsible citizen and caring for his family and other members of society. Dickens may have responded to a need at the time for a short text which was relatively easy to follow, and it could be seen as ideal reading for the Christmas period. What about stave? What is a stave? Well, rather than chapters, A Christmas Carol is divided into 5 staves, and staves are again generally used in songs. It can be seen as another name for a verse. So the use of the word stave may relate to the title, with it being a carol or a Christmas song. We do know that Dickens was a fan of music, particularly classical pieces by composers such as Mozart, and even wrote some songs himself, so that may have had a further influence upon his choice of this term. A stave of music has 5 lines, so it's therefore somewhat unsurprising that Dickens includes 5 staves in A Christmas Carol. It could be argued the use of staves emphasises the relatively short nature of each of the 5 sections and gives a light-hearted feel to the story. Dickens further emphasises this in the preface, when he says that his intention was to write a book which shall not put my readers out of humour with themselves. Now, in many ways, A Christmas Carol is a story of time travel. The moving around from the present to the past, back to the present and into the future before returning to the present could be very confusing, but Marley's visit explains that there will be 3 more spirits for Scrooge to learn from. You'll be haunted by 3 spirits, he says. Marley's visit makes the upcoming structure clear, and since both the reader and Scrooge then know what to expect, it's actually relatively easy to follow in terms of structure. In order that Scrooge can return to Christmas Day, time is played with by Dickens. The spirits all visit Scrooge at 1 AM, he goes to sleep at 2 AM, then he wakes up at midnight again, so time seems to somehow reset itself without the action all happening in one single night. Scrooge would wake up after Christmas Day is over and would be less able to put his new caring attitude into practice if this sort of structure wasn't followed. And Dickens seems to blur the boundaries between appearance and reality, and we the readers are required to suspend our disbelief so that the message Dickens is delivering about the need to take responsibility for each other can be understood. The climax of the novella, when Scrooge sees his own name on a gravestone and finally not only accepts he must change his ways, but is keen to do so, is followed by a resolution where we see Scrooge putting his words into action. He shows he's now willing to look out for other people and accept his responsibilities towards his family and employees. Now, the novella is an allegory. The whole story can really be seen as a very simplistic metaphor or a Christian story of redemption. Scrooge could be viewed as representative of the wealthy and aristocratic members of society at the time. Through him, Dickens argues that those with money are often uncaring towards those with less money than themselves. Their demeanour is presented as selfish, and they seem to focus on making money rather than looking out for others, including their own employees. Fred, Scrooge and Fezziwig represent the middle class who are more generous and keen to prioritise others rather than themselves, particularly at Christmas. Both throw parties for their family and friends, and Fezziwig also includes his employees, showing that businessmen don't have to be heartless and uncaring as Scrooge has been. Fred effectively acts as a contrast or foil to Scrooge, demonstrating that it's rewarding to spend money on Christmas festivities and it's possible to be determined and focused without being neglectful. Fred insists he'll continue to invite Scrooge to his house every Christmas, no matter how many times his invitation is turned down. Ignorance and Want are two characters presented by the Ghost of Christmas Present. They're said to be the children of mankind. Scrooge is warned to fear ignorance more than want. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want, beware them both, and all of their degree, but most of all beware the boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom. Ignorance, then, represents members of society who are uneducated and may be unaware that they are being exploited as workers. Dickens argues that if children are educated, they're more likely to be able to earn a fair wage and support their families. Well, the message of social responsibility is repeated to Scrooge throughout the novel, right from Marley's visit early in the story, and the message is therefore impossible for both Scrooge, but us also as the reader, to ignore. I hope you found this video useful. Please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and pick up the ebook.